everybody. How are y'all doing this morning? Good, awesome, very cool. I think Tally already talked about it, but I don't know if he's right or not about go ahead and have your Christmas shopping done. You can go ahead and be the overachiever and get it all purchased and check off your list and all that stuff. But if you're a procrastinator like I am, anybody else a procrastinator? Yeah? Don't worry. Jeff Bezos can have it to your doorstep in 2 days, and sometimes he could have it there in the exact same day. But just don't play your cards too close with that, because there's honestly nothing more awkward than handing somebody a tracking number for their Christmas present. You should at least wrap it in a box, okay? If you're gonna do that, make sure you at least have some type of presentation with that, because you want them to know you care, okay? And so Christmas season, man, it's in full swing. Hobby Lobby has already been pillaged and all the trees are almost gone and all that kind of stuff. But we are really, hopefully you're in the Christmas mood. Hopefully you're ready for Christmas, because I am. I love Christmas time. And this really made me think as I was getting ready today about what my favorite parts about Christmas, what are my favorite things about Christmas. And we can make a huge list of why Christmas is amazing. I mean, it could be a really long list about the things that we love. But I want to share with you, if I had to take it to like a top three, I would take it, and the first thing would be this. My first favorite thing would be Christmas music, okay? Does anybody else love Christmas music? You love it? You walk around singing Feliz Navidad? Okay, that's right. I love Christmas music, but there's some parameters, okay? Some of you messed up people, as your kids are walking home from trick-or-treating, you start turning on Christmas music, okay? That's against the rules. You can't do that. That's not how it works, okay? Thanksgiving has its own holiday time. You wait. I like Christmas music, and you wait until the day after Thanksgiving, right? Good, I got some people agreeing with me. Then you crank up the Christmas music while you decorate your house, you eat the leftovers. That is when you turn on Christmas music. I love Christmas music. Another thing that I love about Christmas is the food. Anybody else, you're a food person for Christmas? You love Christmas food? Yes, love the food. But I gotta be clear, I'm not talking about turkey or ham or dressing, which all sounds just like Thanksgiving food, so we need to figure that out. I'm talking about this, the Reese's Christmas trees, okay? All right. I'm talking about the little candy canes that are in the bite size where you can just pop one in after another. I'm talking about the little Debbie snacks in the shape of a wreath, okay? That's what gets my heart in the right season. When I say Christmas food, I guess I really mean Christmas snacks, because that's more of what they are. And now I love decorations. I love Christmas lights. I love all of that. But my number one favorite thing about Christmas, and maybe you'll agree with me, is Christmas movies, okay? Anybody else, you love Christmas movies? Anybody? You just, oh, yes. Because Christmas time has brought us some of the most iconic movies of all time. Think about it. Think about movies like this. A Charlie Brown Christmas, okay? That's a classic movie right there. Everybody loves that movie. A Christmas Carol, kind of creepy with the ghost in it, but it's okay. Just let your kids be a little older. Santa Claus, if we can just admit it, Tim Allen is the greatest Santa Claus that has ever been or ever will be. The Grinch, we watched this one yesterday at our house. The kids, they love The Grinch. Die Hard. Don't argue me on this. I have the mic and you're listening. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It is on the list. Home Alone, we watched this one this weekend too. Love Home Alone. Christmas with the Cranks. That one, my wife had to introduce me to that movie. That one is wild. And then I think maybe the ultimate is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I'm not going to say any quotes from that one because this is going on the internet, okay? No doubt, my favorite thing about Christmas is the Christmas movies. And a lot of times we have traditions with our Christmas movie. My family, like on Christmas Eve, you pop some popcorn, you make hot chocolate, all right? You sit down, you get the whole family together, ready to watch a traditional Christmas movie that you watch all together, because it's like your family Christmas movie. And for my family, when I was growing up, That movie was, to me, the best Christmas movie of all time. You cannot beat this movie. Even Elf doesn't top this movie. The best Christmas movie to me of all time is It's a Wonderful Life. Anybody else? It's a Wonderful Life? Man, that is a tearjerker. That movie, it will move you. So if you haven't seen it, let me set it up for you. So It's a Wonderful Life is about the main character, George Bailey, and you kind of follow his whole life, and it kind of culminates at Christmas time, and George gets in a bad spot, really. He runs out of money. Things don't seem to be going very well at home. It seems like he is in big trouble. Things aren't right at work. And basically, the plot of the movie is that George loses hope. George loses all hope. And hope is kind of a funny thing, if we're honest, okay? Hope is kind of intangible. You can't really put your hands on hope. Hope can be kind of tricky, and I would have to bet that at some point in all of our lives, we have all faced situations or seasons where we needed hope. We need hope. We look for hope, but so often hope can be hard to find. And it's hard to find it. It's hard to base it in something. And a lot of times in the Christmas season, we look around. We see all the cheer, we see all the joy, we see the lights, all the presents, but sometimes it's hard for us to find hope. And it's hard for us to put our hope in something. And if some of us are honest, we could probably use a little bit of hope this time of year. And so that's exactly where we're going to start this morning, and that's exactly where the people of Israel found themselves a couple thousand years ago. They had been holding on to hope for so long, and the people of Israel, they had been conquered by another country, by another nation, the Romans, and so they were living under an oppressive government, and it felt like to them that they had lost a little bit of hope. But there was some hope that they were holding on to. There was a promise that was made to the nation of Israel hundreds of years before Jesus was born, and it's through the prophet Isaiah. He relayed a promise from God to the Israelites. And so this morning, if you have a Bible, we're going to be in Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah chapter 9. And we're going to start in verse 2. Isaiah 9 verse 2 says this: "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. A light has dawned on those living in the land of darkness. You have enlarged the nation and increased its joy. The people have rejoiced before you as they rejoice at harvest time and as they rejoice when dividing spoils. For you have shattered their oppressive yoke and the rod on their shoulders, the staff of their oppressor, just as you did the day of Midian. For every trampling boot of battle and the bloodied garments of war will be burned as fuel for the fire." And then here's a verse that we hear all the time around Christmas. This is something that if you've been anywhere around church, you've heard this verse quoted around Christmas time. "For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will be on his shoulders. He will be named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace." Now, the nation of Israel, God's chosen people, had held on to this promise. They had held on to it and passed this promise down from generation to generation, from their kids to their kids. But they had made a pretty critical mistake with this promise. And if we're not careful, it's a mistake that we can make as well with God's promises. You see, here's the mistake they made. They assumed that hope had to look like what they imagined. They assumed that hope had to look the way that they imagined. Because here's the setup at this time. Like I said, the Israelites had been conquered by the Romans. And so they weren't looking for a little baby. They were looking for a conquering king to ride in and dominate their enemies. And specifically, they were looking for salvation from the Romans. They wanted to be independent again. They wanted their freedom. They had hope, but the way that they imagined it was not in the right thing. But thankfully, there's good news. Okay, there's good news because there's something that even when the Israelites were putting their hope and imagining it in the wrong way, Even when they weren't looking for the right thing, there was something else that was true. And it's something that we should all know and we should hold on to. It was true then, and it's true now. And it's this: God always keeps his promises. God always keeps his promises. He didn't bail out on his promise to the Israelites. He didn't, just because they were imagining the wrong thing, just because they had their hope in the wrong thing, God didn't bail on his end of the deal. He still kept his promise. And what we call the Christmas story is really the story of God giving hope and keeping his promise to his people. And so in the Gospel of Luke, we looked at this last week, God shows us how he keeps his promise. And in Luke chapter 2, verse 4, it says this: Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family line of David, to be registered along with Mary, who was engaged to him and was pregnant. We talked about that last week, how that's just an absolutely crazy story. Verse 6, while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. Then she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him tightly in cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. It's really cool to see Jesus entered the world, not as some king, not as some guy riding in on horseback to redeem his people, but instead he came as an infant, an innocent little baby. This promise that the prophet Isaiah had spoke of did not look like anything like the people expected. But here he was. And as we read the Christmas story, we can kind of look at it with these rose-colored glasses. We can look at it and see just this quietness, this tranquil situation, and we can kind of think to ourselves, there's no way that hope can be found in a little baby. There's no way that all of our hope can be found and placed in this little baby. But there's something we have to understand. Here's the truth. Jesus is our ultimate hope. Jesus is our ultimate hope. It might be hard for you to believe it. It might be hard for you to see it, but Jesus is our only hope. And God went to extremes to make this happen. Let's look at the rest of the story. Luke 2, verse 8 says this: In the same region, shepherds were staying out in the fields and keeping watch at night over their flock. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, Don't be afraid, for look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all people. Today, in the city of David, a Savior was born for you, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped tightly in cloth and lying in a manger. Suddenly, there was a multitude of heavenly hosts with the angel, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to the people he favors. Now, this might be the most quoted Christmas story passage of all time. This is the passage that people always use. Michael even used these same verses last week. So if you're having deja vu, it's okay, you're here, hold on. But there's something that we need to see in these verses that I think is really, really important. There's something I don't want you to miss. We said that Jesus is our only hope. He's our ultimate hope. And God knew that. And he believed the mission of sending his son was so important that he sent an army to make sure it happened. Go back and look. Let's look at verse 13. Suddenly, there was a multitude of the heavenly hosts with the angel praising God. That phrase right there, heavenly hosts, when it's literally translated, it means heavenly army. Heavenly army. Now, confession, I've never been in the army, okay? And it's been a long, long time since I've been in a choir, okay? Probably since I was a kid. But typically, you don't send an army to perform a concert, right? I know some of y'all have served. Some of you have been in the military. You've worn the uniform. And I love y'all so much. But when it's time to sing a song to announce the coming Messiah, I've heard some of you sing, and I'm not going to call you, okay? No offense, but it's just not going to happen. When it's time for a song, you call a choir, all right? When you bring an army, you're bringing them ready to fight. So get this. God knew and he believed that Jesus was our only hope, and he was bound and determined to make sure that nothing would stop that mission. You and I have no other hope except in Jesus. But some of us, we struggle. We struggle with why. We struggle with the how. We see the Christmas story, and we see the baby being born. We hear about Jesus being hope for the world, but all we can think of is the why, the how. How is it that Jesus can be our hope? What is the reason behind that? Well, the Apostle Paul, he wrote a lot of the New Testament. We've talked about him a bunch of times. I think the Apostle Paul gives us a great explanation as to why Jesus is our ultimate hope. He wrote a letter called Colossians. That's where we'll be in just a second, so if you want to go and turn there. Colossians chapter 1. And Paul was writing this letter to a group of believers in the city of Colossae, and this is in modern-day Turkey. And when Paul wrote this letter to them, they were being pressured to give up their hope in Jesus. These people were being pressured to abandon following the Lord and trusting him as their ultimate hope. And Paul, to me, I think he writes the most convincing argument for Jesus being our ultimate hope. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 15, starting in verse 15, we read this. This is Paul speaking of Jesus. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For everything was created by him in heaven and on earth, the visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and by him all things hold together. He is also the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile everything to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. Paul goes right at it. There is nothing and no one in history that can match up with Jesus. This list, you can't beat this list. Paul lays out why Jesus is our ultimate hope. He's the image of the invisible God that we can't even see. He created everything. You can't beat that. So he holds everything together. Salvation is through him because God raised him from the dead, and we get forgiveness through his sacrifice on the cross. Christmas is not just a story about a little baby being born. This is not just another birth story. This is God's perfect Son coming to our messy world to rescue you and I. There has never been anyone before Jesus that was better than him. There's never been anyone since, and there never will be anyone like Jesus. There is nothing and no one that compares to him. Nobody can stand as his equal. He came to earth as a baby to give hope then, and he gives us hope now. And our bottom line today is this: Jesus is our ultimate hope because there is no one like him. There is no one like Jesus. You cannot compare anyone to him. In all of history, everything Paul said about him was true. You can't put your hope in anyone else, in anything else. And honestly, anything else that you put your hope in is going to let you down. People will let you down. Possessions will let you down. I was speaking at a ministry center this week, and I was asking people what they put their hope in. And I was like, have you ever put your hope in money? It'll let you down too. And this guy goes, nope. And I was like, you're kind of wrong there, buddy. It's okay. But we really only have one good option. And that option is to put our hope in Jesus. He is the only one that is worthy of it. But we can't stop there. We can't stop. We can't just get Jesus for ourselves and hold it in. We can't just get that hope and keep it to ourselves, okay? Just like, I'm assuming, you wouldn't go buy your family a bunch of presents and then stuff it in a closet and not give it to them, right? You're not going to get all these gifts, all these great things, and then hide it from other people. There's something that we should do. And as we go back to the story in Luke of Jesus being born, we see what we should do. This is the shepherds, what they did. In Luke chapter 2, verse 17, it says this. After seeing them, the shepherds, after seeing Jesus and Mary, they reported the message they were told about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. The shepherds, we read a lot of their story last week. They had an absolutely crazy night. Okay, first the angels, then they meet Jesus. And after they met the hope of the world, they didn't stop there. They went out and they shared it with others. They shared it with other people. The shepherds, they had met the most important person in the entire world. They had seen their hope that they had been taught about their entire life manifested in this little baby. And they wanted others to know, and they would not let anything stop them. This hope was so great and so life-changing that nothing stopped them from sharing with others. Imagine this. Imagine if the shepherds, they went back to whatever fields they were at, and the next day they saw some of their other co-worker shepherds, and they're like, oh, I need to tell these guys. And they're like, oh, nope, I forgot. It's against shepherd company policy for me to share my religious beliefs here at work. That was really cool, but I'm just going to keep quiet about that. Okay? Or what if the next family get together, they're like, nope, Uncle Ted, he really doesn't like talking about religion. So although that was a really cool experience, although that was amazing, that's some great hope, I'm just going to keep that to myself. No, they didn't. They didn't let anything stop them from sharing it with others. They made no excuses. To them, it was simple. They met the hope of the world, and the world needed to know. And so they went out and they told others. Done. Period. That was it. So church, let's live like that. If Jesus is our ultimate hope, then we should share him with others. If there's no one like him, then we should tell others. There's not a single person that you work with, that you know, that you're related to. There's not a single person that you know that does not need the hope of Jesus. And so we should just do what the shepherds did. Simply, we have to tell everyone. That's it. That's the mission. Let's take this hope that we have. If we have this hope in Jesus, let's take it and share it. On the theme of Christmas movies, have y'all ever seen Elf? You ever seen the movie Elf? That's a pretty good, live a classic now. Okay, Will Ferrell. There's a line I think that you should apply with this movie, okay, to this idea of sharing, all right? At one point in the movie, Buddy, the elf, played by Will Ferrell, he says this, and if you know the end of this, I need you to finish it with me. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is... Sing it loud for all to hear. Look at that. You guys know that? And you can share that. Buddy the Elf is completely right, okay? If we have the ultimate hope of the world, we should share it with others. I'm not saying go sing to your neighbor, but you should share the hope with them. We should share this hope with others. As we get closer to Christmas, there's one thing that's true for all of us. The people around us, the people at work, at school, everyone is in need of hope. And if their hope is based in anything else, it's empty. If their hope, if your friends, if your family, if their hope is based in anything except Jesus, that hope is empty. They really don't have hope. Your neighbor, everybody has this neighbor, they put all of their hope in the government, in politics, and that's the answer. Are you willing to do what the shepherds did and share the hope of Jesus with them? Because that really is ultimate hope. Your friend at work, the one that puts all of their hope in success and money and accolades and climbing the ladder. Man, they are in need of the hope of Jesus. Don't let anything stop you from sharing that hope with them. That guy you coach with, or that person you work out at the gym with, they've tried putting their hope in everything else. Relationships, money, stuff, and all of those things at some point have failed them. Why not share with them the only hope that will not fail? Share with them the hope of Jesus. And if you're having trouble convincing yourself or talking yourself into sharing this hope, let me just help you imagine this a little bit. Fast forward a year from now, and we're having Christmas services again, and we're talking about this hope of Jesus. And imagine that friend here with you. Imagine them here sitting beside you. Y'all are going to church together now. You've shared the hope with them, and they see that they need Jesus. They put their hope and their trust in him because he is their ultimate hope. And they're here with you. And you both get to enjoy and share in that joy of who Jesus is together. And they might even be like, hey, thank you. Thank you for not holding in that hope all to yourself. Thank you for not keeping that hope to yourself. Thank you for sharing that. Wouldn't that be worth it? Wouldn't that be worth sharing the hope of Jesus with someone else, with a person who does not have hope? I hope you do that. The best part of Christmas is the fact that we have the ultimate hope in Jesus. That really is the best part. There is no one who compares to him, but don't keep that hope to yourself. You have to share that hope. As we close, I have a couple of questions for you to answer. The first question is this: where have I placed my hope? Where is your hope? Is it in money? Is it in your job? Is it in relationships? Where is your hope? Number 2, who do I know that needs the hope of Jesus? I would bet money that all of us know people who need the hope of Jesus. And hopefully there's somebody in your mind, whether it's somebody at work, at the gym, another parent that you know, somebody. Who do you know that needs the hope of Jesus? But don't stop there. Number 3, what is my plan to share this hope? God had a plan of bringing Jesus into the world. He made sure that plan happened. What is your plan of sharing the hope of Jesus with that person? Let's pray. Jesus, thank you so much for this morning. Thank you for everyone that is here. God, we're so thankful for Church 8025 and the people that make up our church. Thank you for the fact that we're able to come here and worship you. Lord, I ask that we will learn from the story of the shepherds and of Mary and of your birth here on earth, Lord. I pray that we'll read in Colossians how because of those things, who you are means you are the only person qualified to put our hope in. God, I ask that you will give us the confidence to believe that, give us the confidence to buy into that hope. And Lord, I pray that you will give us the courage to share that hope with other people in our lives. As we continue in attitude of prayer, I want to talk to y'all kind of one-on-one for a second. I would have to believe in a room this big that somebody has never placed their hope and trust in Jesus. And I want you to know that before you can share that hope has to be in you. And so if you have any questions about what it looks like to follow Jesus, to place your hope in him, please stop and talk to me, talk to Michael, talk to anybody on our team or on our staff or volunteers. We would love to share that hope with you, because before you can give that hope has to be in you. And I'll pray that if anybody here, if you haven't followed Jesus with your life and given your life to him, that you would grasp that hope first before you can start sharing it with others. Jesus, thank you for Christmas. Thank you for this season. Thank you for our church. God, I pray that you bless us. Help us to be your light in this world. Help us to share your hope with others. And it's all in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.